Ambassador Zixthara stood before the Galactic Council, her crystalline form shimmering with barely contained anxiety. The assembled delegates from 1,000 worlds fell silent as she approached the central podium, her footsteps echoing through the vast chamber like distant thunder. "Honored members of the Council," she began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, "I come before you today, not as a representative of the ethereal collective, but as a survivor, a witness to something that defies our understanding of warfare, diplomacy, and the very nature of sentient life itself." The Vorthan delegate, a massive creature of living stone, rumbled his skepticism. "Ambassador, surely you exaggerate. What could possibly warrant such dramatic—" "The humans have been awakened," Zixthara interrupted, her form flashing crimson. The chamber erupted in concerned whispers and alarmed clicks from various species. "The Kethani Imperium made the same mistake you're about to make, Delegate Graxmore. They underestimated them." She activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber, showing a peaceful blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. Earth, third planet from their sun. Population 8 billion. Technology level, barely beyond their own solar system. Military capability, primitive fusion weapons, and chemical propulsion. The Kethani war machine could have glassed their world in minutes. The display shifted to show massive alien dreadnoughts approaching Earth's orbital space. 6 months ago, the Imperium demanded tribute and submission. Standard protocol for a newly discovered civilization. The humans' response was unexpected. They said no, Zixthara continued, her form now pulsing with an eerie blue light. Not just no. They said, and I quote from the translated transmission, "Come and take it." 3 words that sealed the fate of the most powerful military force in this arm of the galaxy. The Aquatic Consortium's representative, speaking through translation bubbles, expressed their confusion. Surely a pre-spacefaring species could pose no threat to Imperial forces. Zixthara's laugh was like breaking glass. "That's what we thought. That's what they thought. But you see, we made a fundamental error in our assessment. We evaluated humans based on their technology, their resources, their strategic position. We never bothered to study their psychology." The hologram shifted again, showing the initial Imperial assault. Sleek alien fighters swarmed around primitive human craft that seemed cobbled together from scrap metal and desperation. The first wave was meant to be a demonstration. Destroy a few satellites, disable some infrastructure, show them the futility of resistance. Instead, the humans did something no rational species would ever do. When their orbital platforms were destroyed, they rammed their remaining shuttles into Imperial fighters. When their primitive missiles were intercepted, they used their ships as projectiles. When they ran out of ships, they started throwing rocks. Delegate Graxmore's rumbling grew skeptical. Rocks? Asteroids, actually. Redirected from their belt using mining charges and prayer. 47 Imperial vessels lost to what they called kinetic bombardment. The humans weaponized their entire solar system. The display now showed the chaos of the second week. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, held together by nothing but stubbornness and what their species called duct tape. Impossible maneuvers that should have killed the pilots were executed with casual disregard for physics and self-preservation. But that wasn't the worst part, Zixthara continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The worst part was when they went quiet. Quiet? Asked the Cerebral Union's hive mind representative. For 3 days, no transmissions, no attacks, no surrender. The Imperial fleet assumed they had finally broken human resolve. They were wrong. The hologram showed the final phase of what historians would later call the Soul Incident. Human vessels emerged from behind their moon, but these were different. Crude, angular, painted in garish colors, with messages scrawled across their hulls, in a dozen human languages. They had retrofitted everything. Civilian transports loaded with nuclear warheads. Cargo haulers with railguns welded to their hulls. They even converted their space station into a massive kinetic weapon. But it wasn't the ships that broke the Imperial fleet. Zixthara paused, her form cycling through colors of distress, and remembered terror. It was the humans inside them. They had reached what their species calls the Berserk state, a psychological condition where self-preservation becomes secondary to the complete destruction of their enemy. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had said goodbye to their families forever. They fought like they were already dead, because in their minds, they were. They made their ships into weapons, their bodies into ammunition, their deaths into victory. The holographic battle reached its climax as human vessels collided with Imperial dreadnoughts in synchronized suicide attacks. Ships with names like Remember Terror and Death Before Surrender carved through formations that had conquered 100 worlds. The humans developed a tactic they called the Dead Man's Switch. Every ship was rigged to explode with maximum damage if destroyed. Destroying a human vessel only guaranteed that it would take several Imperial ships with it. The chamber was silent, except for the soft humming of environmental systems. Finally, the ethereal collective's senior delegate asked the question everyone was thinking: what happened to the Imperial fleet? Gone, Zixthar replied simply. 3,000 ships. 500,000 of the Imperium's finest warriors. Reduced to debris and radiation by a species that hadn't even achieved faster than light travel. And the humans? That's why I'm here. Zixthara's form solidified, taking on the appearance of crystallized determination. They're building a fleet. Real ships this time, with technology salvaged from Imperial wrecks. They're learning, adapting, and they're asking questions about who gave the Imperium the location of their world. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a shockwave. The Galactic Council had provided standard survey data to the Imperium, as was customary for newly discovered worlds. I've studied their history, Zixthara continued. Humans don't just go berserk in space. They've been practicing on each other for millennia. World wars, nuclear standoffs, conflicts that should have destroyed their species, but only made them stronger. She gestured to the still flickering hologram of Earth. They call their world the cradle of humanity, but it's more than that. It's a forge. Every generation has been tempered by conflict, shaped by struggle, hardened by loss. They're not just survivors, they're weaponized evolution in action. So what do you propose? Asked the Vorthan delegate, his earlier skepticism replaced by genuine concern. We classify their system as forbidden space. We establish a perimeter. We wait, and we pray to whatever gods we believe in that they never decide we're a threat. And if they do, Zixthara's form went completely transparent for a moment, the equivalent of a shudder in her species. Then we hope that somewhere in this galaxy there are gods powerful enough to save us. Because when humans go berserk, mercy becomes a concept they temporarily forget. The council chamber fell silent as delegates contemplated a universe where the most dangerous predators walked upright, built cities, and called themselves civilized. In the cold depths of space, a small blue world continued its orbit, unaware that it had just become the most feared address in the galaxy. The vote to establish the Terran exclusion zone was unanimous.